All right, welcome to the show. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, building damage experts, live every week for you. We have a new show for you. Myself, I'm your host, Richie Kidwell, and today we have Hans Kennon with Kennon Law Group. We have a fantastic show for you today, and we're going to get right to it. In our Florida insurance, our property insurance landscape, we have some updates for you today as our session here in the state of Florida has closed. Our legislative session has last month. Not much. I think we reported middle of the session. There wasn't much to report at that time. Now that it's come to a close for over a month, we're going to talk about what did happen. There was a few minor things that did go through that will affect the landscape as we move forward, but really, I'm hopeful for next year when we have new leadership in. Every 2 years, the Senate leadership and the House of Representatives leadership changes. So there's a new Senate president, there's a new Speaker of the House, and therefore they set up who are the members of each committee in which our bills go through. Based off of history of the last several years that last 10 years I've been a part of the legislature looking at these property insurance bills, they usually go through about 3 committees in the Senate and 3 in the House. And they usually go through banking and insurance, maybe like rules, appropriations, some of those key committees. And it's really important to us who is a part of those committees. And if they're super bought out bitches from the insurance side, or if they're actually self-thinkers and are there for the people that have voted for them, so we can actually legislate here. And it's crazy to me. I guess I get frustrated with that thought of, like, when I'm voting for somebody, I'm voting for somebody to act on my behalf as a citizen of this county, of this state. And it frustrates me when I go up to the legislature and see that these folks are voting against the popular demands of the public and all for personal gain. And it's like, bitch, we did not vote for you so you can personally advance yourself off the backs of the voters for you. So exactly. Anyways, let me just say that. But there were a few things that went through, and Hans Kennon, you've been a part of the Florida Justice Association, which is a big lobbying firm for they've been called the Trial Bar, right? Which is full of a bunch of lawyers that are different committees within those within that organization. And part of what they do is lobbying to make sure that there are equal rights for consumers and for lawyers. I've been a part of the efforts along with FJA as well as we're for consumers and my association with the Restoration Association of Florida. So, but you've also heard is just a very quiet year, and I think it's because we were just so whipped the last couple of years with the law changes.
2 regular sessions and 3 special or whatever it was by the time we kind of got through all those changes over the last couple of years.
It really was. It was a lot. 3 special sessions and a major session that just changed the landscape of forever.
And the one before that was also did some damage to the consumers also. But yeah, 21, 22 were really the big ones. A couple of little things that came out which are kind of reflective of the market, which you don't often see. A lot of what I see is what I see, and it never makes it to the legislative level. Insurers are famous for, when you have an open claim, they'll then non-renew you at the end of your policy period in a way to kind of either force you into settlement if you have an open claim. Exactly that. Or they'll simply non-renew you and leave you hanging where you can't get other coverage. If you can't get other coverage, your mortgage company will typically then put what's called forced place policy on your home, which is literally 3 times the cost and 1/3 the coverage. It's the worst thing ever. I did have one client friend of mine who thought that forced place was okay, and I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I just let them deal with it. I'm like, stop! You're killing yourself.
That's your wallet that's dealing with it. And crazy.
Didn't realize. Cow. Wow. But the nice thing about what we used to do in that situation is we would reach out to the insurer and say, look, your insured has an open claim. You know he can't get new coverage. You know literally your non-payment is preventing him from getting coverage. And we threaten, and we actually file what we call our bad faith notices to the insurer for trying to non-renew their insured. And with some success, and sometimes the insurers would back off of that. The nice thing is on the bill, that one of the bills that did pass, although they were all minor changes, under the bill, the insurer is no longer allowed to non-renew you while there is a pending claim, which is really a big deal if you think about it, because if you have 90 days before your insurance policy is going to non-renew and you have an open claim, everyone's telling you can't get coverage. I mean, really, that does place the insured or the consumer in an unfair position of having to say,
right,
all right, Mr. Insurer, whatever you got, I'll take, because I got to go get a new roof. I got to go do whatever I got to do.
Right.
And you're
It really does
me.
pin you up against the wall.
Oh, yeah.
And in some instances, I've heard you say, and some of your clients come to you where they the insurance company will deny damage to a roof and say that there's, minor damages and their damages were under the deductible, so therefore no payments are coming. And then a month or two later, they get their letter of non-renewal based off of the roof being not in good shape enough to offer a policy for.
Exactly. We'll often
and it makes them replace the roof. It said, if you replace your roof, we'll go ahead and give you coverage. And the homeowner's like, but I thought there wasn't enough damage to replace my roof.
We often find that claims and underwriting do not talk very much. We certainly have found that. Like you said, you'll have a claim made, and they'll send an engineer out who arguably is the pinnacle of inspectors, at least in the insurance world, or how the insurers see them. And they'll say that the home, basically the roof, that there's no damage to the roof or something along those lines. And then, like you said, you'll get a non-renewal letter that says, oh, due to wear and tear and deterioration of roof, you have to have a replacement, will non-renew you, while you have an open claim that they've denied to replace your roof for having damage caused by some event.
Or
some
minimal damage or...
Right. You have 5 shingles damage or whatever any of those things may be.
Right, and
so.
I've seen it before. They say these shingles are damaged, and we admit that there is some damage, and we admit that there are some repairs to be made on your home. However, the damages don't exceed your deductible, thereby no payments are coming. And you look at that and you see where those damaged shingles are on the slope, and you're going, who in the world's going to replace it there in the middle of the slope and guarantee that you're not going to get any water penetration, because you got to go all the way up to the next slope to be able to offer the water moisture barrier underneath that prevents water from getting into your home. So it really doesn't make sense to me. So, but what you're talking about is was that Senate Bill 7052 from last year?
It was.
From 2023.
2023.
So that's enacted right now.
It should be in now. And another thing, too, what's interesting is that we've talked about it on the show before. I had a deposition recently where the field adjuster kind of just fessed up that he had written an estimate that was sent to the insurer, and the insurer wrote back and said, take out any reference to roof damage and then give it to the insured. So now there's a statute that says it prevents the alteration or amendment of an adjuster's report without providing a detailed explanation. Let me tell you this, that adjuster had no detailed explanation, and the lawyer representing the insurer had no detailed explanation as to why that would have happened.
So we have laws around it, and it says that you can't do this, you got to do this, but it doesn't have a penalty surrounding it. So what's the penalty if they don't abide by the statute?
Well, I often say to people, which I hate having to say, is that sometimes there are wrongs for which there are no remedy. And this is the statute that is kind of aspirational, I would say, perhaps at its best level, that it is there to try to curb conduct. But typically these types of statutes do not allow you to bring a lawsuit for the violation of it. So it becomes a bit of a toothless tiger at that point. You're like, hey, you can't do this. Now, what you can do, and then again, it gets complicated as all these issues do, you could file a bad faith notice, which is what I did in my case, where the field adjuster said that he was told to not include roof damage. Well, all that really does typically is it might force some resolution by the insurer that perhaps they were otherwise not going to pay on. So use it more as leverage. But you'd actually have to go to trial, win, and then bring another lawsuit for bad faith damages for what they did.
Right.
So there's a lot of tough talk within some of these statutes, but there's not a lot of application for me as an attorney, other than to try to use the violations again as leverage, which we do, I think, with great success. Say, look, you still broke the law. I'm still going to go in front of 7 people or 8 people in a jury and say, here's the statute says you can't do this. You did it. So there's an expense and a cost and a variety of things that will occur as a result. But there's no right to simply say, yeah, you changed my estimate, and that's the basis of the cause of action.
Right.
So-
And they did on one of the special sessions, I lose count now, when the bad faith portion of the statute was not only removed as far as being a separate action, meaning you have to win an order, decree, or a judgment in order to then pursue the bad faith. What it's changed to, or what it seems to be now, what I've heard is that it's either the separate action, right? You have to wait. There's a 60-day cure period. If it doesn't cure within 60 days, then you are able to, if you file the CRN, civil remedy notice for bad faith, and the lawsuit at the same time, that if you weren't to cure that in that 60-day period, then you can simply amend the complaint to add the bad faith count later on.
No more. I mean, that's kind of essentially what happened.
Are you able to nowadays, though, if you do, or, can you then, but they'll file a motion to stay until there's a decree or an order, right?
Correct. I mean, the mere passage of the 60 days does not give you a right to add that bad faith claim into the existing lawsuit. You have to actually obtain a judgment, a judicial determination, I believe is how the statute is worded, a judicial determination into the first case, into the underlying case for breach of contract, before you're allowed to actually bring the second one. Now, it would still be in abeyance before, too.
But you can still file the motion and see if they're going to file a motion to stay.
Correct. You'd still bring it in, and now there's really almost no reason to, because the statute requires it to get a determination.
Okay.
Under the old statute, when the 60 days passed, you had an inherent right to bring a bad faith claim and run it somewhat concurrently.
Simultaneously, yeah.
Right. But now these days, there's really almost no reason to. I mean, you can still, again, it's become more of a toothless tiger, where bad faith used to be demonstrated by any cure after 60 days, but now you have to get a judicial determination, not just conduct. If the insurer pays after 60 days, it doesn't give you a right to now sue for bad faith. You need a judicial determination.
Right.
So whether it's within
an MSD or an ending MSJ or something.
So whether it's within the 60 or after the 60, it almost doesn't matter anymore, because the insurer can pay it without any liability unless there's been a judicial determination of bad faith conduct, which is a big investment on behalf of the consumer to kind of stick with you through all that.
Right. Yeah, right. You have to have the client has a wherewithal to want to stick it out for another couple of years.
Yeah.
And those are hard to find. And I think that's what the insurance companies were doing when they forced the legislature by overpaying our governor to run for president, and he turned into a bought-out bitch. It's unfortunate. I really like the guy. I voted for him twice. I shouldn't have. But, I really like the other things that he did. But being a bought-out little bitch is not good. And then you got our dumbass CFO who doesn't do shit for the state of Florida except for fucking, just be involved with the insurance companies and sucking their D. I saw earlier he's going to Texas to help out, the border crisis. Like, what the fuck is he doing?
No, really?
What's he doing?
Seriously?
Yeah. And you can see this as a prep for, there must be zero candidates that are wanting to run after DeSantis, because this a-hole is going to fucking, with no training, nothing. He's just a bought out insurance bitch.
He's going to run. I bet you he runs.
I know he's going to run. This is what he's prepping up for. You know, I even saw people on his Instagram. They're like, why? Why is the CFO of Florida?
Right. The chief financial officer, not chief of law enforcement, not chief of guns, and chief financial officer is going to wield all of his Excel spreadsheets on the border crossers.
He's really not. I don't get it. So, I mean, we have a lack of good candidates that are going to come up. So this is what I've heard from the grapevine as far as who's going to run for governor coming up in a couple of years. I mean, not only do we got to get through the next couple of years, the changing of the guard is going to be, Danny Perez being the Speaker of the House next year, which is great. He's an attorney. He understands the issues that we have. I do not know who the Senate President is going to be. I forgot who that is. But we hope it's going to be friendly. Now, the problem is if we get any bills that are actually going to bring back some good consumer-friendly laws, we don't know what our bought-out governor is going to do. Yeah. So the legislator pitches it up to him, and if he's either going to veto it or he's going to sign it and becomes law. So it's undecided to know what these next 2 years are going to be. But here's, after we get through that next 2 years, who's going to be the next governor, and that for the state of Florida. And this is what's going to be very concerning for us contractors in the state of Florida and consumers in the state of Florida to have a fair marketplace in this property insurance market. Now, I heard that since DeSantis is timed out. He's got nowhere else to go. He can't move up to president world. If he was smart, he'd run for vice president and get the hell out of my state so we can put in Janet Nunez is the one that is the deputy governor right now. She would have 2 years if he ran up to Washington, D.C. and got out of our hair. We can actually make some change.
I just looked up, actually. They just did it a couple Tuesdays ago. They designated Benjamin Albritton, Albritton.
This is even better than what I was going to say. I was like, this is what I've heard, so I don't even know. This is better. So these people have to register 2 years in advance?
I guess he will succeed Kathleen Passidomo, the current Senate president.
You're talking about Senate president.
So, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Senate president is November of 2024. Ben Albritton will take over as Senate president.
And is he a Republican?
I don't know anything about him. That's why I kind of looked up.
That's the first time I've heard of him.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Good thing is we have Danny Perez in the House, and it takes usually there's one or the other, right? Because one of them has a card in their pocket, and so does the Senate president. So they both have trading cards, and they say, "This is my hot button issue I want to get through today this year." And they say, "This is my hot button issue I want to get through. If you let me get this through, they do a lot of horse trading between the House and the Senate. So hopefully he's a friendly guy, and friendly, and I mean to contractors and consumers, and not insurance people. So we'll see what happens here. But who's going to run for governor for the state of Florida in 2 years? I heard that because DeSantis is no longer, right? I mean, he's got nowhere to go unless he moves up. He's came from the state Congress. He's not going to go to Washington D.C. Congress. So it's like you can't go back down to be a senator after you've been a powerful governor like he did. So what do? I heard he's going to run his wife, Casey DeSantis.
I did hear that also. Prop her up.
I'm just literally, it's why am I getting flashbacks? I don't know. Do I say anything? Am I going to get hung in a prison cell somewhere? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's just bad all around. Who knows? There we go.
Mr. Albritton was born in Lakeland and attended Florida Southern, where he received a degree in citrus in 1990.
Wait, there's a degree in citrus? Like an orange?
Those are the exact words. I read it. I wanted to make sure I read it exactly as written.
Like there's Citrus County, and then there's an actual piece of citrus.
But there's also a degree in citrus. Following graduation, he joined his family's citrus grove company, working with his brother and his uncle. So let's see.
He's an orange picker. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, my parents grew up on a tobacco farm. They're picking tobacco.
Let's see.
Nothing wrong with that.
Mr. Albritton.
Is he? So he's a Republican.
He's Republican from Wauchula.
Bless you.
Oh, there we go. But let's see: guarding, fighting, standing, supporting, safeguarding. It's a little so far. It's a little vague, but so I'm not sure where he would stand on that. Other than definitely a Republican. Again, you and I both are Republicans.
Yeah. This year, and I don't think you went up to Tallahassee. I did not go up to Tallahassee this year.
There was nobody. Nobody. Literally, I wasn't even asked to go. There really wasn't any. We had like 1 or 2 meetings by Zoom, and then that was it. Because really nothing of real substance other than the 2023 bill we've been talking about, kind of codifying some of the conduct that is bad for consumers. They did try to.
Well, let's see. Let's see who else is going to run for governor. All right, so you got Casey DeSantis that Ron DeSantis is going to make run. Our goofball CFO
Jimmy Petronis.
Jimmy Petronis, yeah. And then we've got Chevron Jones.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
love that guy.
Yes.
Freaking love this guy. He is, I would love if he actually got voted in to be our Florida governor. Such a great guy. The only problem is that people don't see anything else but the color of who they're voting for, red or blue, and he happens to be a Democrat.
Yeah.
And so
hard road.
It's going to be a rough road because people, when they go to the ballot, they say, okay, I'm a Republican, red all the way down. But for me, I'm going to look at each candidate.
You're going to have to.
I'm going to vote for Chevron Jones as a Democrat. I'm a Republican, but I'm going to vote for him. And I'm going to go and I'm going to be selective. And we'll see who runs for CFO in a couple of years, but we need a good, strong person, maybe Adam, who ran last year.
Well, I mean, I think
we'll
people
run
need
again.
to know, too, that the reason we spend any time talking about the chief financial officer for Florida is because he oversees division.
Not only Division Financial Services,
Right.
but also the
Office of Insurance Regulation.
That's right.
So that's why. So you may say to yourself, well, why is the bean counter guy of importance to us? Is because he oversees, but basically the group that decides how much your policy is going to increase or not increase. Oversees all those committees and those agencies.
Plus, he's an idiot. I love to talk shit about him.
And that is yet another reason, perhaps not as important to the listeners, but he is someone who does actually oversee the Office of Insurance Regulation.
Does he though? Does he? $3.5 million he raised last year for his campaign. All
from State
came
Farm?
from insurance companies.
Insurance companies.
100% came from insurance companies, and you're like, what do you think he's going to do? He's like, oh, I'm going to, when we finally, people showed up to have that, had evidence in their hands against the insurance company. He's like, oh, we're going to open up these investigations. They didn't do shit for that stuff. It was given to them on December 14th.
Right.
2 days before the big bill was signed on December 16th. It was in their office. It was in their hands. They did nothing about it or nothing with it until the next March. And then they didn't even do nothing about it then.
Well, even then there was the big press release that said, and what Richie's referring to is some of the testimony had been of what I talked about, the field adjusters who testified and said, I was told hundreds and hundreds of times to change the estimate to not reflect all the damage that I believe was attributable to a storm event. Hundreds of times. And Petronas said, if we find any credible evidence of there being a problem, we will hold them to whatever, bring them to justice, whatever term he used. And literally there's guys saying, but I did do that hundreds of times on behalf of the insurer.
Yeah. How many times do you do? I don't remember. It's 100 times more. It's 200 times more. It's 500. Yes, probably that many times. I mean, it's literally on so many deposition records, and it's like the evidence is right there, and
really
he's still like Ray Charles. He's like, oh, I don't know. I need damning evidence. We're opening up this investigation.
Right.
Bullshit. You're lying. You're an overpaid piece of shit. You need to be violating everybody equally and not going after roofers and not going after contractors that are working for homeowners. They're literally looking for things, and they're calling their own, like he runs the DFS. That dumbass went on record to say that the folks that is under DFS, which are all the public adjusters as well as the third-party adjusters, but public adjusters under the 320 license under DFS, he literally called them locusts. They show up like locusts after a storm, offering assistance and help to policyholders there at their doorstep. What is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. Like, if my power was out and I don't have a cell phone and you showed up with a cell phone and a power cord and says, hey, I can help you file your insurance claim, hell yeah, come on in. What are you doing? Like, what's wrong with
I'm
that?
not exactly sure how it went down, but I remember seeing the other year also when was it FEMA or the Army Corps of Engineers came in and started putting tarps on people's roofs by nailing them down. And Petronas, as I believe I'm correct, was very proud of the fact that they were going around and putting on tarps, or quote unquote at no cost, everything has a cost, but actually putting tarps on, nailing through people's roofs, which would then require them to get a new roof.
Right. Whether they were denied or not. In many of those cases, they were denied.
Right.
And then some of the reasons were because somebody drove nails through your roof. Yeah, through your roof, and now it's leaking. You can't replace that. I mean, you can't repair it, rather. You have to replace it. And so that's definitely been causing issues. But this legislative session, I think just a few bills went through. And so we had House Bill 7073 go through this year in 2024. Bill reduces property insurance premiums by over $500 million statewide. Really what it is, it was a savings of like 1.5%, and it's on tax, and it's a tax reduction to FICA. So why are they even talking about it like this? This is stupid. All right.
Well, because the reality is, if you think about it, $500 million is a lot of money, but it's a lot of money like a class action is. You get in the mail and they say, if you bought a blender by this company between these two dates, we're going to refund you back the sales tax of 12 cents if you fill out this form and mail it back in, all those things. So it's a lot of money in the aggregate because it has to be. But the truth is, it doesn't have any meaningful consumer impact because it can't. It simply can't do that. Yeah. What they should be doing is spending their money on setting up a reinsurance fund like they had some years before, requiring insurers to utilize reinsurance set up by the state. There's a variety of things they could do on behalf of the consumer that doesn't end up being, again, a rather marginal $20 relief or whatever it ends up being, when they can do something more systemically with that money. And really, some of the things that are actually mentioned in the bill we talked about, like making actual penalties for insurers who control what the field adjuster does, who non-renew people when they have an open claim, and give that statute some remedy and some teeth, as opposed to giving people each $20 off and saying, oh, it's $500 million, which makes you feel like you got a big savings.
Right. And that's their whole propulsion rather, of them looking at us and saying, or showing us, look at this bill that we sponsored, and we fucked everything up the past couple of years, and look how bad it is now, but we just saved the state $500 million. We've doubled prices, premiums here in the state of Florida, which has cost us billions of dollars, but look at this, we saved you $500 million. We overcharge you by billions, but we just saved you $500 million statewide.
So they say the insurer overcharges, and then the state helps subsidize it by giving $500 million essentially back to the insurer. But now you recently, though, obtained new insurance, I believe.
I did. And this was interesting, right? Because we knew that because of the law changes, new insurance companies were going to pop up. Well, the executives over at AAA here in Central Florida, over at the Lake Mary, drove on over to Tampa in 2022 and created a new insurance company called Loggerhead Insurance.
Really?
I just signed up with them. I switched from Heritage, which is about almost $6,000 a year for my policy, who was very restrictive. It wasn't restrictive before, and now they sent me a renewal notice. I had to renew this month. And I looked at it, and I said, okay, the past years have been great policy. I haven't had any issues. And I look at it, and remember on our previous shows, we talked about caps, and then we talked about limitations now, which is the new thing. Before, you're just like, what are my mold caps? Do I have any other weird caps I need to know about? And lately, there's been a $10,000 limited water damage cap, which I'm like, wait. So any water gets inside of my house, ensuing damage, or any type of water comes in, I'm limited at $10,000? I mean, that's no.
I have a lot.
Yeah, I have a lot to replace inside the house. I mean, drywall, if I'm drying it out, replacing it's going to be a lot more than $10,000 if water comes in, whether it be from a wind event or whichever. So it had that inside the Heritage policy. It had a $5,000 sewer cap, and then it had $10,000 on mold cap. And I said, dude, if I have water that comes in outside of a hurricane, I literally only have, and let's say if it's a sewer backup at that, I'm either $5,000 or I'm $20,000 out if the water creates mold, right? Then I have $10,000. What happens if it supersedes? What if it's a $100,000 loss and I'm paying for this policy that I think I have full coverage on, but I don't?
Right.
So I went shopping. And ended up finding through Marshall Insurance as an agent. Remember, I told you to shop your agents as well, because everybody has different carriers that they have under their belt as an agent. I contacted several agencies after I went on the OIR website to look at different premiums here in my area, and I brought them up, and I contacted Marshall Insurance, and they say Loggerhead is great, but you need a 4-point and a wind mitigation inspection.
Okay.
So we had some folks here.
Hey, man.
Exactly. Mike Heyman with Liberty Property Inspections on our show. I called up Mike, and I don't even know if he invoiced me. God dang it. I gotta pay him. Anyway, so he came over real quick. I mean, like the next day and got my inspection done. He sent Travis out, one of his guys, very professional, got my stuff done. The very next day I woke up and there was my 4-point inspection report, my wind mitt. I sent it over to my insurance provider. And within a week, I have my full policy born. And check this out. $6,000 a year from Heritage with a bunch of limitations and caps.
Right.
Well, I got no caps. Matter of fact, I fought for, paid $10 extra a year for $50,000 of mold coverage.
Really?
$10 for the year.
Wow.
Ask your agent about upping the mold, right? And then I'm a mold assessor by trade. I know this, but still, you need that coverage. And I said, is there any water damage caps? This is no. So what? And they said, well, there is a sewer cap. I said, well, what's the highest we can raise that to? He said, we can do $25,000 on the sewer.
Well, that's probably good.
I was like, wait a minute, I don't have a septic. So, all right, well, if the city backs me up, I'm going to sue them. So, all right, let's go. So that's the only thing I have is a sewer $25,000 cap.
Okay.
Mold at $50,000 and a full rest of the policy open. And I only paid $3,500. $3,546 for the year to be exact.
Nice.
So my mortgage company, I missed it by a week. My mortgage company paid Heritage. And then yesterday I just bound my new insurance. They sent off a check for $3,500, and then I put in the cancellation, which I get the rest of that money back to go towards that. So I'm saving almost half. I mean, this is crazy. So so about $2,500 for the year I'm saving with loggerhead insurance. So nice. Again, I mean, if I give you advice on anything, all the policy that we've seen, there's some great insurance companies coming up out of the woodwork. Slide, that was great for a while, but their prices have gone through the roof. Oh yeah. Gotta love Bruce for that. He's like, how far can I push the envelope? The freaking ex-Enron guy. I mean, whatever. Guys, I'm not jealous. No, wait, I'm not mad. I'm envious. Maybe a little jealous. Anyways, but anyways, he's doing a great job over there, but the prices are too high. So continuing to shop for insurance is the best way. I think John Morgan, even online, says shop your insurance every 2 years. We talk about it now. The law changed. Yeah, we say shop it every year now because it's 1 year to make first notice of claim for any possible damage done from a storm. But 1 to 2 years, 1 to 3 years, I would say that's best. Yeah, it's good. To check that out. So going back to some of the things that passed this year, then we had Senate Bill 7028. Again, it's a super quiet year. So this bill allocated $200 million to My Florida Safe Home program. This program offers matching grants up to $10,000 for improvements that makes homes more hurricane resistant. Which can lead to lower insurance premiums. Which is also known as the home hardening program. It's for better windows, or hurricane windows, or shatterproof windows. Is that for real? Is that saying can I replace my windows and get $10,000 back? Yes, if they're pardon me. If they don't run out of money, that's what happens. So they fund those programs usually every year. And then there's kind of a line. People get in line for it. It's usually by the time someone like you or I reads about it, a lot of times the money's already gone because if you fill out the grant forms and do all those things. But it's like many years, most of those aid programs just tend, not that it's underfunded, but simply just don't have enough funds. Right. And then lastly, we had a citizens property insurance bill that seems to allow surplus lines carriers to buy takeout policies from citizens, which is wild. Which is interesting because surplus lines, you lose the benefit of FIGA by virtue of purchasing a policy through them. But I guess it's let the buyer beware of the caveat emptor line. That if you're able to buy that policy, you'll simply lose the right to have FIGA help you out should that insurer go out of business. Now, most surplus lines generally don't go out of business. They may offer crummy coverage here and there, but they tend to be much more diverse. How could you go out of business? You offer crappy insurance. You don't have to abide by the state laws, and you barely pay anything. I mean, you really don't. I mean, that's why you think of like a Lloyd's of London. You think of that company, and you always feel if you have a Lloyd's policy, you kind of have the Cadillac, and it's really just not how it really is in my view anymore. But that's a surplus lines carrier, so you lose the benefit of FIGA. But you may somehow become insured by Lloyd's. You go, oh, Lloyd's. We read about them in like the paper, right? They're insuring, valuable things of people's. But yeah, you won't have the benefit if something were to happen to them. But again, most of the time, the surplus lines carriers are large enough and don't have all their eggs in the Florida basket, where they can typically survive even a big storm somewhere. Right. Lloyd's of London isn't so bad. I mean, it's bad to get. I mean, it's hard to get a hold of the adjusters the way that they do it. It's all independent adjusters. Right. So it's not like you can call a major customer service claim line and be like, let me talk to the adjuster. It's like, where's Waldo? Once you find him, it's great. Yeah. Once you find that adjuster, it's great, but it's difficult. That's always the hardest part. Right. Making contact. Yeah. Right. They do end up paying. Sometimes it takes a lawsuit, but at least they pay. I would agree. At least they pay. A lot better than some of the insurance companies out there. So, and I think that's to their detriment too. It's like the fighting insurance companies are just bad business owners that are just like, I got something to prove. Let me pound my chest. And and when they lose bad and they get sanctioned and all, they're like, and then there they go. And that's why they made the laws the way they did about not allowing executives to get a parachute and paid on the way out. Right. Because then they just dump the Florida-based company, go back to wherever they started from and then enter a new company back into Florida. It's crazy that Florida allows us to do that, or at least companies to do that. So, but that's why we were talking about being hopeful for a new changing of guard in 2 years. We need a good, strong governor, and we need a good, strong CFO to come in and help us change things back to the way they were.
Yeah, but another year, because next session begins in March instead of January. So just about 11 months from now, we'll start that process over again. Hopefully have some interesting developments to report.
Right. And speaking of, this is really the season of new beginnings. Hans Kennon here has now started his own practice, Kennon Law Group, getting that up and running, and all of that. I think you are up and running.
We are,
which is great.
Bringing in new clients, bringing people in every week, so helping people return their house to pre-loss condition, and all the things we used to do for all these years, just doing it for ourselves.
That's awesome. And the best way to get a hold of you for whether it be any type of insurance dispute, isn't that right? Whether it be property, auto, life insurance, or there's one other.
Disability. We'll help folks on if they have any issues with that. But my cell phone is 407-782-0258, 407-782-0258. Feel free to reach out, call or text. Either way is fine. We're happy to chat with you and see who can help you.
That's awesome. That's great. And then also your website, KennonLawGroup.com.
Yep.
A way to send you a message, an email as well, if old school style, if you're not a texter. But it's great to have a lawyer in your phone for those emergency needs.
Yeah, we always tell people, just open your phone up and put the word lawyer in, put the word attorney, whatever you feel comfortable doing. You put my name, it's Hans, H-A-N-S, last name Kennon, K-E-N-N-O-N. And my cell phone, again, that 407-782-0258 number. Something happens, you flip it open and give me a call.
That's awesome. That's great. And for me, I run this association called the Restoration Association of Florida here in the state of Florida. That is a nonprofit association. If you do like what you hear today on the show or in any of our shows, and you want to see how you can support and be a part of it, using my nonprofit is one way to do so. Contractor Talk isn't a nonprofit situation. It's just a podcast. So go to my website, www.raflorida.org. If you're interested in becoming a member of our association, if you're a contractor listening, you like what you've heard today, or just donate one time, you can do that, and it's tax deductible for your business. So I appreciate you guys listening to the show. It's been a slow session year for us as property insurance. Only a few things have changed this year, and so we've had so many changes over the past several years that we're still working out or figuring out and living under this new atmosphere of property insurance, and now auto insurance. Everything is different.
It is. So that's why, especially based on the show, we try to talk about new things come up. Obviously, you have questions about mold or have issues with your home or need something tested, you get a hold of a guy like Richie. You got a question about insurance or something that is changing, or you got a letter that you don't understand, you let me know.
That's awesome. And guys, if you have any questions, comments, you want us to put a question or certain scenario on the podcast, send us an email, info@contractortalkpodcast.com. We'll put you on. Go to our Facebook or go to our YouTube, and you can listen to us everywhere you like to stream, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere. And again, our YouTube page, you can see our videos, and then also you can message us from there or send us an email. Thank you guys for joining us to the show today and every week here on Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. We'll talk to you guys next week. See you.